I know firsthand how hard it can be to make time for our creative pursuits when life gets in the way. And whether it's work or family or other responsibilities, it can feel like there's just not time in the day to do it all. I mean, I know this is what we're all thinking all the time. But it is indeed possible to make time for your art practice. And not only can you make time, but you can do it without any of that external pressure. And I have some tips and tricks that have worked for me really well. I don't want to oversimplify this, but I want to share them with you because I've curated the perfect starting point that you can begin today. I'll be sharing that in my third idea with you. I can't wait for this. But let's start with looking at mini projects. So this one is so much fun. You essentially choose small art projects that you can complete in a shorter amount of time. So for example, you could create a series of like mini paintings that only take 10 to 15 minutes to complete. You could work on a series of sketches during your lunch break or moments that you are waiting, because don't tell me that you don't have 15 minutes of downtime in your day, because if I do, then you do. And by breaking your art practice into these smaller, manageable projects, you can make so much progress and stay creative even when you don't have a lot of time. And there's a bonus to this practice. Keeping your artwork literally bite-sized will not only help you tap into your creativity, but you'll have way less pressure about like your definition of what finished is. So this can do a few things. For one, it will almost certainly get you to explore new techniques because your brain will be working in these small chunks of time to figure out how to finesse with less, basically, and in turn, develop a signature style when you're not overthinking. Second bonus, your skills will naturally improve because you'll be analyzing your work without judgment, and each time that you visit those 15-minute blocks of time, you'll inevitably test or try something new. It's science. Lastly, even though the list easily goes far beyond this, your priorities will subconsciously shift after you begin. And after you get into this zone, you might be thinking like, hey, maybe instead of needing to head to the post office, I'll schedule a free pickup that'll buy me an extra 30 minutes of creation time. Boom, mindset shift, resourcefulness, hey yo. And thirdly, part two, you'll be forming habits that are meaningful to you, and that's invaluable. Can you believe that this is only one of these three ideas? Okay, let's keep going. Art on the go. This is one of the ways that I have constantly worked. I love it because I've made my art practice portable by choosing supplies that I can take with me on the go. I have a big list linked for you that you can grab my favorites because let's be real, they are so fun when we find good supplies. But here's a list of examples for these opportune times to squeeze creating in. There's commuting. So if you use public transportation, you can use that time to sketch or paint or work on a small project. Waiting in line, there is so much wait time. So if you make use of that time that you're spending, in line, keep a sketchbook or keep a set of pencils or an iPad in your bag. And then during a break at work, you can use your lunch break or another break to work on these small projects in between bites. Traveling, oh my gosh, I love this because when you bring along art supplies to keep you entertained during the journey, I can't even tell you how much quality work I've made from time spent waiting in airports and on planes. It's no joke, some of my best creation time because it's like, it takes me out of my normal surroundings and puts me into a space where I can truly get creative. And then there's during a conference or a meeting. Yes, seriously. And it's not necessarily working on personal projects because when you can't work on the ideal projects, you can certainly take notes or create mind maps in a whole new way. So maybe you incorporate like doodles or like highlight key points and do it with paint or color of some kind. Maybe you completely refresh the way that you take notes because if you lay it out visually, it just makes more sense. And this is sparking new ideas in your personal creative work, whether you know it or not. There's also while watching TV, so commercial breaks or just during the whole thing while the show is on. There's just so much missed creative time during TV time. And let's be real, I love my shows, but I want to create too, so I'll just do both. You can do it during long phone calls. We have long phone calls all the time. You can keep your hands busy with art while you chat. And during a road trip, if you take breaks to work on these small projects, like a travel journal is so much fun. I started doing this a few years back and it actually became one of my favorite mediums, if you can call it that. I loved it so much that I actually made a whole class about it because it's so rewarding. Basically, by making your art practice more portable, it lets you squeeze in creativity during moments when you would otherwise be idle. Then there's participate in a challenge is the last idea here. And sometimes the lack of time is actually just an aimless thought pattern. And so what I mean is it can be tricky to sit down and get started because you don't know what to create. Enter challenge time. These things are great to get you constantly motivated and also hold you accountable, not to mention this bonus, habit building. So if you participate in, let's say, an Instagram challenge or an email drip challenge hosted by an artist that you like, these challenges typically have you create a new piece of art every day for a month or so, maybe a week. You could join an online community that shares weekly art prompts. And by participating in challenges, you will have a specific goal to work toward and a community to connect and hold you accountable. And I know how difficult it can be to get started when ideas just aren't flowing. And that is why I have curated a 14-day challenge myself where you can create vintage wildflowers in watercolor. And you will approach each new day by loosening up, letting your brush run wild, to working with beautifully curated colors and celebrate that antique aesthetic. It's just one of those random, like, let's get it flowing, right? Experiment with compositions and structure. Action time. I want you to look at your schedule and carve out time in at least 3 days over the next week. And if that means 10 minutes on each day, that's what I want you to do. And I want to hold you accountable too. So I encourage you to share and tag me in your process. Because remember, whether you do that or another, making time for your art practice is all about prioritizing what's important to you. And it's always okay to start small and work your way up. Whether it's 15 minutes a day or an hour on the weekends, every little bit counts because your creativity deserves to be nurtured. So I will see you online where we'll do just that. So I'll see you. Just aren't.